Ever since I've been replaying Kingdom Hearts Dream Drop Distance, I've been taking a closer look at the worlds themselves, and I've been able to appreciate them all way more than when I played the game for the first time. I've always had the Country of Musketeers as my favorite world in the game, but there's another one that I didn't give as much appreciation as it deserves, and that one is Symphony of Sorcery. Symphony of Sorcery is based on the film Fantasia, released in 1940. Unfortunately, all the music in the world is copyrighted, so I'm not risking getting DMCA'd, so I'll have to improvise. And that's also why the songs that are in the background they'll be playing will not be the original version. The world itself was the type of experience where I easily blitzed through it without thinking much about it at all when I first ventured through it as both Sora and Riku on my first playthrough. I barely remembered anything from it too, so it felt like an entirely new adventure at the same time. So, without any further ado, I'm ESF1, and this is the beauty in Symphony of Sorcery. To start with Sora's side, the world instantly puts you in the iconic scene of Mickey performing his magic with the power of Yensid's hat while on the top of the cliff with a starry night overhead. This moment overall is obviously one of the most iconic Disney scenes of all time, so it's a really cool thing to see it represented in Kingdom Hearts. It's also a perfect first impression, and it works extremely well with the antagonist Spellikin, who also fits into this world. The witch aesthetic of Spellikin already works extremely well because of how magical the entire world of Symphony of Sorcery is. I mean, it's even in the name. But once you get to start exploring the musical world to get the sound idea at the end, it's really amazing how everything feels so alive and in tune. At first it feels really odd that the chamber that Mickey is in has no music, but then you quickly figure out that the music works more like an orchestra playing on its own in the background. Before I talk about the reality shift for this world, I want to highlight my more favorite subtle thing about this world, which is the fact that the characters don't play any of their voice lines and the strike sound effects are instruments of their own. It's such a tiny, minor change in the grand scheme of things, but I really enjoy how the atmosphere of the world itself feels even more whimsical because of it. Sometimes I even got some unintentional music sync that made combat and exploration even more fun. This world's reality shift is called Melody Catcher, which involves you playing a short rhythm game by timing your prompted inputs to the beat. The more accurate you are at the rhythm game, the more damage you do to enemies, and this is not just limited to combat, but it can also be used to help advance through the world itself. My favorite part about this reality shift is definitely how the song you need to play changes depending on the area as well, so it never feels repetitive. The main area you'll be exploring as Sora is the Pastoral Symphony. The room within it is called the Cloud Walk, which is a landscape in the sky where the clouds are the land, and it's filled with mountainous sections and rainbows you can use Velomotion on to traverse it. The fact that you encounter enemies like Ryu dragons and Pegaslix, as well as unlocking the glide ability here, helps support the aerial environment. Plus that sea at the bottom may or may not be a reference to the final world, take it as you will. Just this location alone, combined with the Pastoral Symphony playing in the background, gave me this feeling like I was flying. It's so uplifting and calm at the same time, which also makes the areas in the musical realm feel so heavenly as well. The second area connects to the end of the mountain range, and it's called the Glen. It's a colorful forest-like expanse that has thundering storm clouds and leaves going with the wind. Just like a specific area Riku explores that I'll be mentioning later, it has an intense sense of scale with how big the trees and clouds are. It makes you feel like one slightly larger leaf compared to everything else with the sense of scale it has. The area that holds the sound idea is just outside the Glen, and it's the fields. When you first arrive, it's riddled by a major storm that dulls everything into a dark blue gloom. Using Reality Shift, you can clear the clouds and lighten up the landscape little by little, and it returns to being a colorful set of fields. My favorite part about it is at the end where the sound idea resides. The sunset at the end really completes this section, and it truly is beautiful. To end off Sora's section, you fight against Spellikin in easily one of my favorite fights in the game. You go back to the Starry Night from the beginning of the world, and it quite literally is a fight within the stars. And plus, using that rail of stars as a way to catch up to Spellikin is just way too genius. The way this fight uses its terrain from a purely visual perspective just looks so pleasing to the eye. Like, honestly, I couldn't take my eyes off this fight, and that even goes for even when I'm editing this footage. Spellican fights more like a magician that continually attempts to put itself in a hard-to-reach position. Thankfully, zero-gravity magic completely shuts this bird down and keeps it grounded. Or rather in the air, because it's put in a zero-gravity drift. But whatever, that just means you can ruffle this bird's feathers even more. I'll be discussing the ending of this world in both towards the end of the video, so instead, let's move to Riku's section of the world. Sora and Riku's adventures in this world transition almost perfectly into each other, with Sora's side starting with a starry night, a sunny day, and then the lowering sunset. Riku's side starts just after the sunset and begins in the Moonlight Wood at night. This area feels way more methodical, and makes you take your time more throughout, with the vibe encouraging you to slow down and look around for chests and other routes in the flowers. Like I alluded to earlier, the Moonlight Wood gives you a sense of scale where you feel as tiny as an ant. It makes you see the small world present among the flowers, and the seasons begin to change when you enter the Golden Wood. The tree leaves are your way up here, and they even drop money from the raindrops when you walk on them. It's also nice to see this area has generally more verticality in its movement too, which works perfectly with Riku's double flight. When you finish going up, you finally arrive in a gorgeous winter wonderland, aka the Snow Gleam Wood. The way the night sky is fully established here with all the lights from the stars and the sky shining far away, oh man, the frozen leaves, they're mostly desolate, and the trees that help emphasize how cold it is. I mean, you can even hop across giant snowflakes floating in midair. How cool is that? But more importantly, Riku's sound idea is at the end of the road here. Well, kind of. Because there's a major threat lurking in the darkness beneath the surface. With Riku's side supposedly ending, the floor collapses and a hellscape is revealed. Satan, Chernobog, emerges from a mountain with the Night Involved Mountain theme playing in the background. And wow, honestly, sorry for going off topic real quick, but the fact that Riku even fights Chernobog is just so cool. The fight in KH1 was already really cool, but just thematically, Riku fighting Chernobog, aka a demon of pure darkness, feels like such a nice subtle way to reference Riku's fight against his inner darkness. Also, can we talk about how amazing the color scheme for this section looks too? The way Chernobog's silhouette mixes with the lava and fire makes him even more intimidating. Combined with his new attacks and his minions, the entire fight feels so cinematic. I'd still rather have him as a normal boss instead of a glorified dive mission, but that's not what this video is about. Regardless, this is such an amazing fight just from a visual and auditory perspective. The end of this world was nothing short of amazing to me. The way both sound ideas fused together and played Dearly Beloved is genius. And it's the first time that the track has ever been used in-universe, so it's such a great attention to detail. The scene itself felt so fulfilling and completed the world for me. In these ending scenes, it also feels so good to see the duo reference their future friendship with Mickey down the line. With all of that said, I love Symphony of Sorcery and Dream Drop Distance. The world is such a unique one to experience, and the way the music is intertwined with it is a really fun twist. There are even some smaller sections of the world that I haven't talked about yet, like the outside Yensid's tower and the stairway, because I didn't want to just recap everything. I wanted to show the beauty of this world, because it's so sadly overlooked compared to most of the others. Sometimes when I look at the environments of this world, I genuinely forget that the game was originally on the Nintendo frickin' 3DS, because it looks like such a crazy glow-up. This type of stuff is why I love Kingdom Hearts in general. It just has so much attention to detail in every world of the game. Like, That's what it is. It makes me smile. That's what Kingdom Hearts is to me, and I love that. But to end this off, if you enjoyed the video, consider liking and subscribing to the channel if you want to. And stay safe, guys. See you in the next video. Bye.